OK, it is time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. And joining us are the chief sports reporter for The Times, Martin Ziegler, and the Mirror's chief football writer, John Cross. Welcome to you both. Thank you for being with us. Let's quickly run through the back pages. And we'll start with The Sun. I like the headline, Aston Villa. They couldn't, could they? Emery wants Marcus Rashford on loan until the summer. Here we foe again. Really looking forward to this one. Arsenal and Manchester City renewing their old rivalry. City games as big as the North London derby, according to Martin Ødegaard. And Pep is fired up for the Real derby in a busy Feb. They've been drawn against Real Madrid again. What about the back page of the Mirror? Heated rivals Ødegaard Gunners can handle spicy clashes with City. And my big pal Erling, Maro Itoje as well, keep the Six Nations on free-to-air TV. Very intrigued to see what our two guests have to say about that. How about the Telegraph? Front page of their sports supplement, Villa enter the race for Rashford. Put a smile back on our faces, Maro. That's England fans to the new England captain. The Times, front page of their Saturday sports supplement, Sandro Tonali, my road to redemption. Nice story after his 10-month betting ban. Villa considering a Rashford loan, and Joss Butler criticises India for not using like-for-like concussion sub. We'll get into all of that, but I think, gentlemen, we'll start with the Sun back page, and the big focus as well is the transfers and Marcus Rashford. His name keeps getting mentioned. We know at the moment frozen out at Manchester United, but Aston Villa have jumped on the scene. What do you make of this, John?
Well, it's really interesting, Chris, I've got to say, because I don't really think anyone saw this coming. There's been a lot of talk, hasn't there, in the last couple of weeks about Rashford going to Barcelona. Other options as well, of course. Man United, I think it's been well reported that there's some reticence to allow him to go to a Premier League rival. But listen, you know, Villa have just done business on Duran. They've let him go to Saudi Pro League for £70 million. They do look a bit light up front, I have to say. I do think Villa have enough quality within their squad, but probably need a bit of a lift with Champions League still to come to make a real push for the top four places. And it has to be an aim, I think, of Unai Emery's to get back into the Champions League next season. I think we've only seen flashes of Villa at their best. And I do think, bearing in mind they've lost a striker, maybe to bring in a versatile forward like Rashford, you know, is a good option. I love Marcus Rashford. I think he's such a talented player. He needs to leave Manchester United, refocus, get himself back on track, get his career back, because honestly, he's a player of great potential. In my view, he just needs that fresh challenge. But I don't know. I still think they've got to, you know, deal with the £325,000 a week wages, which is, you know, a big ask for any club, let alone Aston Villa.
Yeah, and it's not just The Sun that's reporting the Rashford to Villa links, Martin. The Times, your newspaper, Villa considering Rashford loan as well. I wonder who is in the strongest position. Is it Manchester United trying to shift their asset, or is it Aston Villa and perhaps others just biding their time as we get closer to deadline day?
Yeah, I mean, I think Aston Villa probably need somebody very, very quickly. So I actually think Manchester United probably in a stronger position if they feel they don't particularly want to sell to a rival, as John says, because that creates its own potential problems for Manchester United. So I think United are in a strong position, unless they're sort of desperate to get him off the wage bill. I mean, I think there is perhaps it causing some sort of instability, perhaps in the club, because Ruben Amorim has been, you know, less than complimentary, hasn't he, recently about Rashford. So, you know, I think it could be a problem for Manchester United to keep him there as well. So I think it's absolutely intriguing where he's going to end up. But I think he must go somewhere. It doesn't make sense for him to stay for anybody.
No. Telegraph's big spread is the Villa entering the race for Rashford. And they're all talking about this loan move, which I suppose would suit all parties, because for Marcus Rashford, gives him 6 months to come out and show everybody what he can do. And then also, maybe if it's not the perfect move for him, he can get something better in the summer. And for Manchester United, maybe hold on to some of the value in the asset if it comes to a full sale, John.
Yeah, and also, by the way, if Rashford then is hungry, if he is determined to get back on track, he might use this 6 months and really fire himself back, sort of to the form and the ability which we know he's capable of, which he's shown in the past, which he probably hasn't, we haven't seen from him in a couple of years since he was chasing this mega contract, if you like. So the incentive is clear. And I do think that, I was full of Man United last Sunday night. Anyone who thinks there's a way back for Rashford at Manchester United with Emery in charge, when he's talking about he'd rather play the 63-year-old goalkeeping coach, you're kidding yourself, aren't you, really? There's just no way back. So I do think, it's just a question of whether a deal can be done. I do think we get lulled into this kind of thinking, it's inevitable, it might happen. But I do think increasingly, because of the contracts and because of PSR, because of the need to balance the books, if you like, I think it's becoming a little bit more difficult to place some players, even at the end of the window. So I do think at this point in time, I bet you Rashford is thinking it's, probably 50-50 whether I get sort of a move and therefore gains before the end of the season or not. Honestly, I do think this one's in the balance and will probably go to the wire.
Yeah, everybody needs a striker, so I wonder how much you'd get the 63-year-old coach at this time of the month. Just one quick one about PSR, because there's a lot of speculation linking Garnacho with a move. Tottenham seem to have manoeuvred. The Mail are reporting that, I think. They'd be mad to lose Alejandro Garnacho, wouldn't they, John, Manchester United?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Listen, Spurs are distancing themselves a little bit from the speculation tonight. But I must say, I do think Garnacho's a cracking player. I think he's terrific. Really exciting. He's got a good actually Gordon sort of kind of goals this season. He's involved in key moments. He's a young player, still developing. Honestly, why United? Well, it's clear, isn't it? It's about PSR. There was a bit of a fallout, 6 weeks or so ago, a little bit longer maybe, when Garnacho and Rashford were dropped for the Manchester derby. There's been no way back for Rashford since, but Garnacho has clearly done enough to kind of force his way back into Amorim's plans. And in my colleague David McDonald's piece here, Amorim is talking glowingly about sort of Garnacho and his attitude and his desire to come back, and specifically about his reaction to being dropped for that City game. Honestly, don't sell him United. It would be a mistake. I do like this player. Yeah,
Martin, it strikes me that Ruben Amorim, from that piece that we've just shown with change for the better, Ghana, Ruben Amorim can be won over if players change their attitude, but seemingly not with Marcus Rashford.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that he actually went out of his way to stress this about Garnacho, because it is almost like a sort of another sort of message towards Rashford that he hasn't got a future here, because he's saying, yeah, this player does because he's done what he wants him to do, but Rashford hasn't. So, yeah, I actually don't think Manchester United can afford to lose Garnacho either, because they've had a couple of decent results in the last week, but before that they've been really struggling. So I think they would be crazy to let him go at this point.
There is another story in that same page on the Daily Mirror, John. United against Jim. Furious Manchester United fans have warned bosses that hiking up ticket prices threatens to kill off the club's loyal support. I suppose they'd be referred to as legacy supporters. This pricing issue is not going away at Manchester United.
No, look, it's uncomfortable at the moment for Jim Ratcliffe, isn't it? About balancing it, basically, and sort of kind of, warning that if you want to see sort of an increase in quality, if you like, on the pitch, then you'll have to pay for it, really. It's been pretty brutal, I think, those warnings, and indeed the cutbacks and redundancies off the pitch as well. Look, I think it's been a challenging time, shall we say, since the takeover, really. And I think this promises to be the next chapter, really, because the fans are really up in arms and making their voices very clearly heard on the ticketing issue and the prices. Look, as Martin, I'm sure, will agree, really, the sort of the balance changed a few years ago, and it was much more about, a Premier League club thrives off its broadcast deal, much more than the actual ticket prices. But, I think because of the way that the ticketing, is structured now, obviously they're looking to a new stadium, then I do think they're trying to redress that a little bit and sort of kind of get some of their profitability back again. So, it's an interesting one. It's a fine balancing act, because United are trying to be that super club, the mega club, and yet they're trying to hold on to the tradition as well. You can't do it both as a Premier League team, I don't think.
Yeah, very tricky situation they're in. Let's focus on the back page of the Daily Star Sport. The heat is on. This is all about our big Super Sunday focus, Arsenal against Manchester City. 4 months ago, it certainly was spicy, Martin. The two managers have tried to play that down, but this is still the real rivalry at the top of the Premier League, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it really is. And yeah, the famous "stay humble" comment from Haaland to Arteta at the end of the last match, which he probably didn't expect was going to be picked up by the cameras and the microphone, but it was. And I think that's just going to add to the spice for this game. City seem to have recovered from their slump. Let's just see how it works out. I actually think it's going to be an absolutely belter of a game, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, heated rivals. I think we need a little bit of rivalry. This season has been a bit nicey-nicey. Liverpool seemingly running away with it at the top, and everybody's going, well, they're doing a great job. But every now and again, you get a fixture that throws up a bit of spice, John, and everybody wants a part of it.
Yeah, they do. Listen, I spoke to Martin Odegaard today. It's made for a really nice interview, I think. Lots of the papers are sort of kind of giving it big licks today. He spoke really well, Martin Odegaard, about that kind of the heat, how he actually has embraced that rivalry with City because it's pushed them both on. He thinks that Arsenal have raised City's level and vice versa, basically. They push it and inspire each other. You know, it's been a strange season. He spoke about this as well, Martin Odegaard, saying about, how frustrated he's been. He's missed, a good 2 months of the season, and it's been a bit up and down, not scored as many goals, if you like. And there's that wonderful contradiction because obviously, Arsenal fans will make, no doubt about it, Haaland public enemy number one on Sunday at the Emirates because of obviously the stay humble comment. But actually, Haaland and Odegaard, as Odegaard was saying, they're great mates. They speak a lot. They're in WhatsApp group because they're Norway international teammates and they get on really well. So, look, I do think there's a lot of spice, though, behind this because Arsenal, won this fixture at the Emirates last season. I think that made them believe that they could actually win the title. City, picked them. It was an absolute cracker at 2-2 at the Etihad, wasn't it? Sort of earlier this season, back in September, with loads and loads of controversy, loads of hangover. So I think this atmosphere is going to be really spicy. But I do feel Arsenal will also feel that it's going to be a bit of a marker for them. If they can win this fixture, then they believe that they can maybe overturn that kind of, gap that they're still feeling behind Liverpool. And Odegaard was talking about, look, we haven't hit top gear. We haven't hit top form. What is amazing to me is that Arsenal's longest winning streak in the Premier League this season is 3 games. They've done it a couple of times, but other than that, it's just 2s here and there. And they're just not, I don't think, caught light. And they're still waiting, I think, to really kind of catch light and really get going. And obviously the same is about City, who I just think are, been on a different planet the last 5 years. But can they get that back?
Yeah, we hope it's going to be a great game. Live on Sky Sports. If they play out another draw, then the big winners might well be Liverpool this weekend. Right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll take a look at more of the back pages, including this piece in the Times. Sandro Tonali, my road to redemption. The Newcastle midfielder opens up on his 10-month ban and how he's returned a new man. Scored at the weekend. Do stay with us. Hello, welcome back. You're watching Back Pages tonight, and welcome back to the Times' Martin Ziegler and the Mirror's John Cross. Welcome to you both. Let's quickly run through the back pages, and we'll focus on Sandro Tonali in the Times, my road to redemption after his year-long ban, and that is where we'll focus right now. We'll also get, we've already covered off Villa and Marcus Rashford, but this is a really nice piece, Martin, done by your newspaper, and Sandro Tonali had that 10 months out of the game because of his betting ban, but how he's returned a new man, scored at the weekend against Southampton, and he's really shining in that Newcastle midfield.
Yeah, a really nice piece by my colleague Martin Hardy. Done a long interview with Sandro Tonali about his road back from that ban. I mean, he's only 24, so it's a long time to be out at that stage of his career. But he's put it behind him. He's sort of accepted his problems. He said it took him 6 months before he realised quite how deep his addiction was, and he talked about his community work he's done as part of his punishment, and it's really, really interesting stuff. And it's been remarkable how his return has helped Newcastle. I think Eddie Howe changed his position, made him a bit more deep lying. That's coincided with a really good run for the Magpies. So yeah, I mean, I think somebody who when he first came onto the scene, a lot was expected of him, and then obviously it didn't last very long because he picked up this ban. But now he's looking one of the form players, midfielders, certainly in the Premier League.
Yeah, so, I mean, a cautionary tale for any other athletes that might get involved in things like that, John, but at the same time, he's also a bit of a role model for the way that he's bounced back.
Yeah, he is. I mean, I think he speaks so well in this interview. Listen, I love a really good player interview on a Saturday morning. I think it's what kind of Saturday morning papers are all about, aren't they? And Martin Hardy's done a super job on this. It's a great read, really, talking about those kind of the early setback, the road to recovery, kind of almost only feeling alive again once he sort of returned to the football pitch. That first game back, I think it was at Forest, wasn't it? And basically just, that kind of redemption. I don't think we should shy away from the fact there that he talks about it being a disease. He took, and within this conversation, we need to acknowledge that football has so many gambling sponsors. It's something that they're trying to tackle about front of shirt sponsors. Of course they are. They're looking at that. But I do think that Tonali has been treated sensitively and rightly so by Eddie Howe and Newcastle. The Newcastle fans have been absolutely incredibly supportive on it. And I think football, needs to learn lessons from this, because honestly, it's not something that, Tonali wanted to do. He was stuck in this cycle, and has come out the other side. And his character comes out of this so well about his determination, the support from his family. There's some really nice colour in it as well. I think he shines brightly as, blimey, you look at him on the pitch and his stature and the way that he looks older than 24. You can't believe it, can you? But he also allows himself a bit of a laugh about the support and, how much they back him. He even blames, I think, his missus. I don't know whether you remember that famous story about, a table being booked for him at the local Wetherspoons. He blames his missus rather than his teammates for that. So, it's just really good fun. It's a really, really nice read, but at the heart of it is a really serious issue, which actually is dealt with incredibly sensitively and well.
Yeah, nothing wrong with Wetherspoons. Other pubs are available.
Absolutely.
Let's focus on The Guardian, Martin. France absolutely incredible against Wales in the Six Nations Championship opener. Dupont lighting up the Stade de France, 43-0. But Wales' wretched run continues now, a record 13 defeats on the spin.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it, and afraid Wales they were lucky to get nil. They were that bad. It just looked like France could run through them at will. I think they could have scored more, actually. One interesting thing for England fans is that Intermark got a red card, completely unnecessary late challenge. I mean, the match was in the bag. But a nasty shoulder first tackle, and it looks as though that could mean that he's going to be banned for the match against England in the next round. So he will be cursing himself for having let himself down that way. But for Wales, I think that the terrible run continues. Very, very tricky time for Warren Gatland now.
Yeah, it certainly is. Tricky time for the Six Nations Championship as well. This is the final season on ITV and BBC, free-to-air TV. And look at that. Don't sell us out. That's the New England captain, Maro Itoje, stressing that it must stay on free-to-air TV. I appreciate we're talking on a pay TV channel right here, and cricket went down a similar route. What's your take on this story, John?
Yeah, look, it is a debate, and Itoje is talking about that debate. He's talking about basically making it, trying to ensure that as many eyes on the sport as possible, really, and kind of keeping that kind of flavour and feel to it, to ensure that kind of the interest remains in rugby. I mean, listen, I have to say, I always sit down in front of the Six Nations. It's one of those sporting events each year that I really enjoy. You know, me and my wife was born in South Africa, so she wouldn't let me escape watching rugby. Let me tell you. But you know, we get the girls involved as well. We watch it, and it's just there. So I do think it kind of brings it into the living room. But look, you know, other channels, you know, do elevate televised sport, you know, to the masses as well. I guess we're talking at the heart of it, aren't we? That basically there's always this belief that if you keep it on terrestrial, then it keeps it, you know, populist. It kind of gets everyone playing to it and basically enjoying it and really sort of kind of loving their sport. You know, I don't know. It is a difficult one because at the heart of it also, you know, we do see the funding debate. You know, where does the money come from? And sort of, you know, I know RTV commercial channel as well. I do think there's lots of talks in the round and whether that's a good thing or not to keep it on terrestrial. It's a good debate, and I don't blame Itoje for putting it out there to something as discussed, because I do think it's one that we should sort of kind of stay on top of, and it's probably a good thing at this point actually that he's doing this before the last season, so we see how it plays out before the TV negotiations really get into full swing. It's a juggling act though, isn't it, for any sport, when you've got the opportunity to cash in versus maximising eyeballs, Martin?
Yeah, I mean, I think about rugby union is it already had, you know, Sky's got the British Lions tour, for example. TNT Sports have Premiership Rugby. So I think it would be strange if there wasn't any live rugby available on terrestrial TV. And actually, I think it's very likely it will remain on the BBC and ITV. TNT Sports have said it would be very challenging for them to bid, I think. Probably the same for Sky, because it's this strange, unique circumstances where you have the home nations and there's an expectation that, you know, they should all be covered. So it actually works very well, the situation at the moment. Ofcom have to approve it as well. They'll have to approve any deal to sell it to a non-terrestrial broadcaster. So I actually think that's probably going to be the likely outcome. Yeah. Let's focus on your paper's front page of the Sport again. The Times. Butler criticises India for not using a like-for-like concussion sub. England lost. The series is lost. But India had a batter concussed and sent on a bowler who won the game, Martin. Yeah. I mean, amazing, really. Butler's absolutely fuming about this. Took 3 wickets. Now, and basically he was saying it should be like for like. It wasn't the spirit of the game. And although it wasn't the only thing which won the game for India, it certainly contributed to it. And it left a very nasty taste in the mouth of England. I think they thought this was... they didn't use the word cheating, but I think they thought it was underhand. Yeah, there is a quote from Jos Buttler. He says, maybe at the toss for the next game, I'll say, who've I picked? I'm going to play 12 players as well. He is very angry about this. There is still one game to play. And, well, we'll have to see how that one goes. But England have lost that match. They've lost the series. And ultimately, a very, very disappointing day and a slightly controversial one. Our race is run on back pages tonight. John Cross, Martin Ziegler, thank you so much for running through all of the back pages on Saturday morning's newspapers, and we look forward to doing it all again. It is a terrific interview with Sandro Tonali. I urge you to go and do that. Now, if you missed any of the show, there is another chance to see back pages tonight at 1:30. And as ever, the show is available as a podcast. Just download Back Pages on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.